The November morning draped Teterboro Airport in a blanket of gray clouds, the kind of overcast sky that made New Jersey look more melancholic than usual. Sofia Rivera stood in the crew briefing room of Elite Air's private terminal, her navy blue uniform pressed to perfection, not a single dark hair out of place in her neat bun. At 28, she had mastered the art of composure, a necessity in her line of work. "Flight 447 to Miami Executive," Captain Tom Harris announced, reviewing the flight plan on his tablet. His weathered face carried the confidence of 20 years flying private jets for the ultra-wealthy. "Weather looks clear once we're through this cloud layer. Should be smooth sailing." Co-pilot Jessica Chen nodded, making notes. Sophia listened intently, her brown eyes scanning the passenger manifest. 6 passengers, 1 flight attendant. Standard luxury service on a Gulfstream G650. The Rolls-Royce of private aviation. "Passengers?" Sophia asked, her voice calm and professional. "High profile," Harris replied, lowering his voice slightly. "VIP from New York, traveling with associates, tech entrepreneur, elderly couple, anniversary trip, and a young woman, early 20s. That's all the info we have." Sophia had learned not to ask too many questions. In private aviation, discretion was as important as safety. The wealthy paid for privacy, and she provided it without judgment. 30 minutes later, she stood at the aircraft door, her smile practiced but genuine. The first passengers arrived. Richard and Martha Whitmore, both in their 70s, dressed in matching camel-colored cashmere coats. Sophia helped them aboard, noting Martha's slight tremor. Early Parkinson's, perhaps. She made a mental note to check on them frequently during the flight. Next came Brandon Chase, the tech entrepreneur, already on his phone before his foot touched the first step. Mid-30s, designer sneakers, and the distracted air of someone whose mind was always calculating something. Then came Melissa Hartley, the young heiress, 23 at most, Sophia estimated. Blonde hair in beach waves, designer sunglasses even though the sky was gray, and an attitude that screamed unlimited credit cards and limited life experience. But it was the final 3 passengers who changed everything. 2 men appeared first. Solidly built, moving with the calculated awareness of trained security. They wore expensive suits, but Sophia recognized the telltale signs. Eyes that swept the cabin systematically, hands that unconsciously checked positions where weapons might be concealed. Bodyguards. Then he arrived. Marco Bellini, according to the manifest. But Sophia had seen enough passengers to know when a name was probably false. He moved up the steps with the kind of presence that commanded attention without demanding it. 40 years old, perhaps. Dark hair silvered at the temples, a face that was handsome in a severe way. Strong jaw, Roman nose, eyes the color of espresso that seemed to calculate everything they saw. His suit was immaculate. Italian, clearly custom-made, but it was his bearing that caught her attention. This wasn't just wealth, this was power. "Welcome aboard, Mr. Bellini," Sophia said, her professional smile firmly in place. Those dark eyes met hers, and for a moment she felt assessed, not in the way men sometimes looked at her. This was different. He was reading her, measuring her competence, her potential usefulness or threat. "Thank you," he replied, his voice deep with a trace of an Italian accent. Then he moved past her, settling into a window seat in the rear of the cabin. His 2 companions took positions nearby, one across the aisle, one 2 rows forward. Sophia secured the door and began her safety demonstration, noting that everyone watched except Bellini, who had pulled out a leather-bound book. Marcus Aurelius's Meditations, she noticed. Interesting reading for a man who traveled with bodyguards. The Gulfstream's engines whined to life, and Captain Harris's voice came through the intercom. "Flight attendants, prepare for departure." Sophia strapped into her jump seat, feeling the familiar sensation of acceleration as they taxied to the runway. The aircraft turned, paused, then surged forward with the controlled power of 70,000 pounds of thrust. Teterboro fell away beneath them, and they climbed into the gray soup of clouds. At 10,000 feet, the seatbelt sign chimed off. Sophia rose, smoothing her uniform, and began her service. "Coffee for the Whitmores, decaf for Martha," she noted. Brandon wanted an espresso and never looked up from his laptop. Melissa requested champagne before noon, which Sophia served without comment. When she approached Bellini, he had set aside his book. "Espresso, please," he said, "and water, still, not sparkling." "Of course, sir." As she prepared his order in the galley, she felt his eyes on her, not leering, observing. When she returned with his drinks, he thanked her with a slight nod. "You've been doing this long?" he asked unexpectedly. Sophia hesitated. Passengers rarely engaged in personal conversation. "6 years, sir." "You're good at it." "Efficient, calm." He said it as a statement of fact, not flattery. "Thank you." She moved away, puzzled. There was something about him, something that made her instincts prickle with awareness. 45 minutes into the flight, they were over the Appalachian Mountains, cruising at 41,000 feet. Sophia was in the galley preparing a light lunch service when the cabin lights flickered, just once, barely noticeable. But Sophia noticed everything. The lights flickered again, Longer this time. The background hum of the aircraft's electrical systems wavered. Sophia's hand went to the intercom. Before she could press the button, Captain Harris's voice came through tense. "Sophia, we're experiencing electrical issues. Stand by." The passengers hadn't noticed yet. Sophia moved into the cabin with practiced calm, her mind already running through emergency protocols. She had trained for this. Every flight attendant did, but training was different from reality. The lights flickered a third time and stayed off for 2 full seconds. When they came back, they were dimmer. Several passengers looked up now, concern beginning to register. Then the nightmare truly began. The engines, both of them, coughed. The steady roar that Sophia had heard on thousands of flights faltered, dropped in pitch, caught again and faltered once more. Melissa Hartley gasped audibly. Brandon Chase's head snapped up from his laptop. The Whitmores gripped each other's hands. Captain Harris's voice returned, and Sophia heard the carefully controlled tension. "Ladies and gentlemen, we're experiencing technical difficulties. Please return to your seats and fasten your seatbelts immediately." The professional phrasing didn't fool anyone. The aircraft was in trouble. Sophia moved through the cabin with deliberate calm, checking seatbelts, her voice steady. "Everything will be fine. Captain Harris is one of the best pilots in the business. Please make sure your seatbelts are low and tight." But inside, her heart was hammering. The engines were losing power. At 41,000 feet, they were 8 miles above the Earth. If the engines died completely— No, don't think about that. Focus on what you can control. Melissa began to cry, her designer sunglasses pushed up on her head, mascara starting to run. "Oh my God, we're going to die." Sophia knelt beside her, her face calm, her voice firm but kind. "Melissa, look at me. Look at my eyes. We are not going to die. I need you to breathe with me. In through your nose. That's it. Hold for 4 seconds. Out through your mouth." She guided the young woman through 3 breaths, watching her panic recede slightly. Meanwhile, the Gulf Stream began to descend, not falling but definitely losing altitude. The nose dipped forward. Sophia felt her stomach lift with the descent. Brandon was frantically trying his cell phone. No signal at this altitude, and even if there were, she'd need to tell him to stop. The Whitmores sat in silence, holding hands. Martha's tremor more pronounced now. Sophia caught Martha's eye and gave her a reassuring nod. Martha managed a weak smile in return. Then Sophia looked toward the rear of the cabin. Marco Bellini sat perfectly still, his hands relaxed on the armrests, his eyes fixed on her, not panicked, not even particularly afraid, watching her handle the crisis with an expression she couldn't quite read. His 2 bodyguards were tense, alert, but looking to him for cues. The aircraft shuddered. The engines coughed again, and this time the port engine died completely. The sound was terrifying. 1 engine screaming, 1 silent. The Gulf Stream began to yaw slightly to the left. Captain Harris corrected, fighting the controls. His voice came through again. "We've lost the port engine. Working to restart. Sophia, prepare cabin for possible emergency landing." Possible, such a careful word for "we're going down." Sophia stood, using a practiced grip on the seat backs to steady herself as the aircraft continued its descent. Her voice carried clearly through the cabin. "Everyone, listen to me carefully. We're going to prepare for an emergency landing. When I tell you, I need you to assume the brace position. Bend forward, hands behind your head, elbows against your knees. If you're able, I want you to mentally review where the exits are." She moved through the cabin, checking each passenger. Her hands were steady even as the aircraft trembled around them. The altimeter on the bulkhead was visible, 32,000 feet and dropping. The oxygen masks hadn't deployed yet. The cabin was still pressurized, but Sophia knew that could change. She checked the emergency equipment, her movements precise despite the aircraft's increasingly unstable motion. "Sophia," Bellini's voice cut through the controlled chaos. She turned to him. "What are our real chances?" She could have lied, could have given him platitudes, but something in his eyes demanded honesty. "If Captain Harris can restart that engine, very good. If not—" She paused, choosing her words carefully. "We need to find somewhere to land soon." He nodded, accepting her candor. "What do you need me to do?" "Stay calm. You're doing that. Keep doing it. You've been through this before. Trained for it. Every scenario. Every possibility." She didn't add that training was different from plummeting toward the Appalachian Mountains in a crippled aircraft. The Gulf Stream dropped through 20,000 feet. Through the windows, Sophia could see the cloud layer breaking. Green mountains stretched below them, beautiful and terrifying. Then Captain Harris's voice again. "Sophia, I've spotted Blue Ridge Regional Airport in Virginia. Small field, but it's our best shot. We're 10 minutes out. Prepare for emergency landing." 10 minutes. Sophia's mind raced through her training. Evacuation procedures, passenger preparation, post-landing protocols. But first, she had to make sure everyone survived the landing. Everyone, we're going to land at a small airport in Virginia. When I give the command, assume the brace position. Stay in that position until the aircraft comes to a complete stop. Do not attempt to exit until I open the doors. Is that understood? Murmurs of assent. Melissa was crying again, but nodding. Brandon had finally put down his phone. The Whitmores sat with remarkable dignity, facing what might be their end together. 15,000 feet. The remaining engine was struggling, its pitch uneven. The aircraft was descending fast. Too fast, but not in free fall. Not yet. Sophia strapped into her jump seat, but her eyes never left the cabin, watching each passenger. The training videos had always stressed, stay calm, project confidence, give passengers something to hold on to besides fear. She was doing that, somehow. At 8,000 feet, something in the electrical system sparked, a small flash near the galley, the acrid smell of burning electronics. Sophia's hand went to the fire extinguisher mounted nearby, ready but not panicked. The mountains were very close now. Sophia could see individual trees, a highway cutting through the wilderness, the small grid of a town, and there, a runway. Narrow, short, but a runway. Brace, 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 Sophia commanded, her voice cutting through the cabin with authority that surprised even herself. She bent forward in her own brace position, head down, hands clasped behind her neck, but her eyes were still on the passengers. Everyone was in position. Good. The aircraft dropped, the remaining engine whining in protest. Through the window, she glimpsed the runway threshold rushing up. Captain Harris was aiming for the numbers, fighting the dead engine's drag, compensating with every ounce of his skill. The wheels touched hard. The impact jolted through the airframe, and Sophia heard Melissa scream. But they were down. The engine roared in reverse thrust, the brakes shrieked, and the Gulfstream careened down the narrow runway. Sophia saw the end of the runway approaching through the front windscreen. They were going too fast. They were going to overshoot. But Captain Harris had decades of experience. He worked the brakes with precision, felt the edge of what the aircraft could take without blowing tires. The Gulfstream slowed, yard by yard, foot by foot. They stopped 75 feet from the end of the runway. For 3 seconds, silence. Just the cooling tick of the surviving engine and the ragged breathing of 7 people who had just cheated death. Then Sophia moved. Stay seated, she commanded, unbuckling and moving to the forward door. Her hands worked the emergency release with practiced efficiency. The door opened. Emergency slide deploying automatically. Melissa, you first. Down the slide, move away from the aircraft. Brandon, help Mr. and Mrs. Whitmore. Everyone, leave your belongings. Move quickly, but don't run. They evacuated in 90 seconds. Sophia counted automatically. Melissa slid first, screaming but moving. Brandon helped Martha Whitmore, then Richard. The bodyguards moved efficiently, one exiting, one staying with Bellini until the cabin was clear. Sophia did a final sweep of the cabin, empty, then helped Bellini toward the door. After you, he said. Sir, I exit last. I know. That's why I'm waiting. Their eyes met, and in that moment something passed between them. Recognition of a shared trait, perhaps. Neither of them ran from danger. They faced it. They exited together, sliding down onto the tarmac of Blue Ridge Regional Airport. The air was cool and clean, the Virginia mountains rising around the small field. Airport emergency vehicles were already approaching, sirens wailing. Sophia counted heads. 7 passengers, 3 crew. Everyone accounted for. Everyone alive. Her legs suddenly felt weak. The adrenaline that had kept her moving was draining away, leaving her shaky. She sat down right there on the tarmac, not quite believing they had survived. Passengers were crying, hugging each other. Martha Whitmore was sobbing in her husband's arms. Brandon was on his phone. Of course he was. Melissa sat hunched over, looking stunned. Then a shadow fell over Sophia. She looked up to find Bellini standing there, his suit somehow still immaculate despite everything. He extended his hand. She took it, and he pulled her to her feet. You stayed calm when everyone else lost their minds, he said, his voice quiet enough that only she could hear. It's my job, Sophia replied automatically. No. His eyes held hers, intense and measuring. That's who you are. You're not like the others. Before Sophia could respond, emergency personnel surrounded them, separating passengers for medical checks and preliminary interviews. But as they led her away, she glanced back. Bellini was on his phone, speaking rapid Italian. His expression transformed from the calm passenger to something harder, more dangerous, and he was looking at the Gulfstream with an expression that made Sophia's instincts flare with warning. That hadn't been mechanical failure. His look confirmed what her gut had been telling her. Someone had sabotaged that aircraft, and Marco Bellini, whoever he really was, knew exactly who and why. The Blue Ridge Inn smelled of old wood and lemon polish. Sophia sat on the edge of the bed in room 214, still wearing her Elite Air uniform, staring at her hands. They had been steady during the emergency. Rock steady. Now they trembled slightly as the adrenaline finally burned off. 3 a.m. She had tried to sleep, failed. Every time she closed her eyes, she felt the aircraft dropping, heard the engines dying, saw the runway rushing up too fast. Her phone buzzed on the nightstand. Another message from her mother in Queens. Sophia had called her hours ago to say she was safe, but Maria Rivera was not easily reassured. Mija, are you sure you're okay? I lit a candle for you at church. Come home soon. Sophia typed back, I'm fine, Mama. Just tired. Love you. She couldn't tell her mother the whole truth. Not yet. Not until she understood it herself. Her official phone, the company-issued one, had been silent since the terse call from Elite Air's operations manager at midnight. Ms. Rivera, you're being placed on administrative leave pending the investigation. Standard procedure, will be in touch. Standard procedure. The words tasted like ash. 6 years of spotless service, and now she was grounded. A knock at the door made her jump. She checked the peephole. Captain Harris, looking as exhausted as she felt. Can't sleep either? He asked when she opened the door. Come in. He entered, carrying 2 cups of coffee from the lobby machine. Figured you'd be awake. They sat in the room's 2 chairs, drinking bad coffee in comfortable silence. Harris had flown her on dozens of flights. They had an easy professional relationship built on mutual respect. FAA investigators want to talk to us at 8. He finally said. Preliminary interviews. What do you think happened up there? Sophia asked, voicing the question that had been circling her mind for hours. Harris's jaw tightened. Officially, too early to say, and unofficially, he met her eyes. That bird was sabotaged, Sophia. I've been flying for 23 years. Electrical systems don't just fail like that. Not on a G650 that passed inspection 48 hours ago. Sophia's stomach nodded. Hearing her suspicions confirmed made it real. Someone tried to crash us. Someone tried to crash someone on that plane. We were collateral damage. They both knew who the target probably was, the mysterious Mr. Bellini with his bodyguards and his false calm and his eyes that saw too much. The passengers, Sophia said. Where are they? Scattered. The Whitmores were picked up by their son, drove down from Richmond. Tech guy caught a commercial flight out this morning. The young woman, Melissa, her father sent a car service. And Bellini? Harris's expression darkened. Still here? Saw him in the lobby around midnight with his 2 friends. They look like they're staying put. After Harris left, Sophia tried again to sleep. This time, exhaustion won over anxiety, and she drifted into an uneasy doze filled with fragmentary dreams of falling. She woke to gray morning light filtering through cheap curtains and her phone buzzing insistently. Unknown number. Hello? Ms. Rivera? A woman's voice, professional and cool. This is Agent Sarah Chen with the FAA. We'd like to speak with you this morning at 9. Can you come to the airport manager's office? The interview lasted 2 hours. Agent Chen and her partner, Agent Brooks, were thorough and relentless. They wanted every detail, pre-flight procedures, passenger behavior, the sequence of system failures, her actions during the emergency. You handled the situation extremely well, Chen said, and it wasn't quite a compliment, more an observation. 6 years experience, correct? Yes. Ever had an incident like this before? Emergency? No. This was my first. You were very calm, almost as if you'd done it before. Chen's eyes were sharp. Sophia understood what she was really asking. I train constantly. Every 6 months, full emergency simulations. I take my job seriously. What can you tell us about the passengers, particularly Mr. Marco Bellini? Very little. He was professional, quiet, read during the flight. Sophia hesitated. Why? Chen and Brooks exchanged a glance. Brooks leaned forward. Ms. Rivera, what if I told you that Marco Bellini doesn't exist? That passport, that name, fabricated, very well fabricated, but fake nonetheless. Sophia's pulse quickened, but she kept her face neutral. Then I'd say he had a good forger. His real name is Dante Moretti. Chen watched Sophia's face carefully. Does that name mean anything to you? It did. Sophia had seen it in news articles, always carefully worded, always stopping just short of direct accusations. The Moretti family of New York, importers, with connections that ran from Italy to Miami, to the ports of New Jersey. I've heard the name, Sophia admitted. And nothing. I serve passengers. I don't investigate them. Chen's lips pressed into a thin line. Ms. Rivera, preliminary analysis of the aircraft shows evidence of tampering with the electrical systems. This wasn't mechanical failure. Someone accessed that plane before takeoff and sabotaged it. We're treating this as attempted murder. The words hung in the air. Murder. Someone had tried to kill everyone on that plane to get to one man. We need you to tell us everything you remember about Mr. Moretti's behavior. Did he seem nervous? Did he make any unusual requests? Did his companions do anything suspicious? Sophia thought back, replaying the flight in her mind with new context. He was calmer than he should have been. During the emergency, when everyone else panicked, he stayed almost completely composed, like he'd been expecting something. Expecting the sabotage? I don't know, but he wasn't surprised. Sophia paused. And afterward, when we evacuated, he looked at the plane differently, not like a relieved passenger, more like someone confirming a suspicion. Chen made notes. Anything else? He made a phone call right after we evacuated. Spoke in Italian. I don't know what he said, but his whole demeanor changed. Less passenger, more commander. After the interview, Sophia stepped out of the airport manager's office feeling drained. The small regional airport was quiet. Just a handful of private planes tied down on the ramp and her crippled Gulfstream surrounded by investigators. She walked outside. needing air, needing space to process. The Virginia mountains rose around the airport, beautiful and indifferent to human drama. They ask about me. Sophia spun. Dante Moretti, she might as well call him by his real name now, stood a few feet away. In daylight, without the crisis sharpening every moment, she could study him more carefully. Expensive casual clothes replacing yesterday's suit. Still those watchful eyes that seemed to calculate everything. You shouldn't be talking to me, Sophia said. Probably not. He stepped closer. But I wanted to thank you properly. What you did yesterday, keeping everyone calm, getting us out alive, that took real courage. I did my job. No, you did more than that. He paused, seeming to choose his words carefully. I've seen a lot of people in crisis. Most fold. You didn't. You're unusual. Sophia crossed her arms. The FAA told me your name. The real one. Did they? No denial, no surprise. And now you're wondering if you should be talking to me, among other things. A slight smile touched his mouth, the first real expression she'd seen from him beyond calm assessment. Smart. You should probably walk away, Miss Rivera. Get as far from me as possible. Why? Because people near me tend to end up in danger. The smile faded. Yesterday proved that. Sophia should walk away, should get in her rental car and drive anywhere else. Instead, she heard herself ask, was it meant for you? The sabotage? Dante studied her for a long moment. Yes. Who? Enemies. I have several. He said it matter-of-factly, like discussing the weather. I didn't know they'd target the plane. That was creative of them. Creative. Sophia's voice hardened. 7 innocent people almost died because someone wants you dead. I know. For the first time, she saw something like regret in his eyes. Believe me, I know. I would never have taken that flight if I'd known they'd go that far. Who's they? Better if you don't know. Safer for you. I almost died. I think I deserve to know why. Dante was quiet, and Sophia could see him weighing options, calculating risks. Finally, there's a diner 2 miles down the road. The mountainside. Can I buy you lunch? Sophia knew she should refuse, should maintain distance from this man who traveled under false names and brought danger with him like luggage. But curiosity warred with caution, and curiosity was winning. 1 hour, she said. Then I'm driving back to New York. The Mountainside Diner was exactly what its name promised, a local place with vinyl booths, country music on the jukebox, and waitresses who called everyone honey. Dante's bodyguards sat 2 booths away, trying and failing to look casual. Over coffee and sandwiches neither of them really ate. Dante told her a version of his truth. My family has been in business for 3 generations, he began. Import-export. Started legitimate. My grandfather really did import olive oil and wine from Italy. But over time, the business diversified into crime, Sophia said bluntly, into gray areas. Some darker than others. He didn't flinch from it. I inherited control 10 years ago when my father died. I've been trying to pull us back toward legitimacy. It's not easy. When you're in that world, they don't let you leave cleanly. Who's they? Competitors. Partners who don't want the business to change. People who see legitimacy as weakness. He turned his coffee cup slowly. A man named Carlo Ricci specifically. He wants my territories in Miami. Thinks if he eliminates me, he can move in. So he blows up planes? He sends a message. I can reach you anywhere. Dante's jaw tightened. What he didn't consider was that innocent people would die with me. Sophia absorbed this. And now I'm more careful. Triple the security. Change my patterns. And figure out how to respond without starting a war that kills more innocent people. Why are you telling me this? Dante met her eyes. Because you're involved now, whether either of us likes it. Ricci's people know you were on that plane. They might think you know something, or that you matter to me. I don't know anything, and I definitely don't matter to you. The first part is true. The second, he paused. You might be surprised, but regardless of what's true, what matters is what Ricci thinks. A chill ran down Sophia's spine. You're saying I'm in danger. I'm saying be careful, very careful. He slid a business card across the table. Just a phone number, nothing else. If anything unusual happens, anything, call that number. One of my people will answer. Sophia stared at the card. Taking it felt like crossing a line, but leaving it felt foolish. She took it. There's something else, Dante said. Elite Air put you on leave, right? How did you? I make it my business to know things. You're grounded while they investigate. Could be weeks, could be longer. I'll manage. Pride stiffened her spine even as anxiety twisted her gut. Her mother's medical bills didn't stop because Sophia was grounded. I'm sure you will, but I have a proposition. Dante leaned forward slightly. I need someone trustworthy. Someone who stays calm under pressure. Someone who doesn't scare easily. For what? Personal assistant. Traveling with me. Managing logistics. Being an extra set of eyes. He named a weekly salary that made Sophia's breath catch. It was more than she made in a month with Elite Air. You want me to work for you, temporarily, until this situation with Ricci resolves one way or another, and until Elite Air clears you to return. Sophia laughed. Couldn't help it. You're asking me to work for someone who just admitted to running a criminal organization. I'm asking you to work for someone who can pay you well and keep you safe. Your choice is between sitting at home unemployed, worried about bills, wondering if Ricci's people are watching you, or working for me, Making good money, with professional security protecting you. That's not a choice. That's coercion. That's reality. His voice was firm but not unkind. I didn't create this situation, Sophia, but I'm offering you the best way through it. She should say no, should walk out, drive to New York, file a police report, and trust the system to protect her. Should follow every instinct that screamed this was a terrible idea. But Sophia thought of her mother's chemotherapy bills, of her tiny apartment in Jackson Heights with rent due in a week, of the fact that Dante Moretti was right. She was involved now, whether she wanted to be or not. I need to think about it. Of course, you have 48 hours. He stood, leaving cash on the table for the meal. The number on that card reaches me 24 hours a day. After he left, Sophia sat in the booth for another 20 minutes staring at the business card. The smart move was obvious. The safe move was clear. So why was she even considering this insanity? That night, back in her hotel room, Sophia called her mother. Mija, I've been so worried. When are you coming home? Soon, Mama. How was treatment today? A pause, the kind that made Sophia's chest tighten. Dr. Patel says we need to add another drug. It's expensive, and the insurance. Don't worry about the insurance. We'll figure it out. Sophia, you can't keep paying for everything. My job is fine. The lie came easily. Actually, I have a new opportunity. Might mean more travel, but the pay is better. More travel? You're already never home. I know, Mama, but it would help with the medical bills. Let me worry about that, okay? You focus on getting better. After they hung up, Sophia pulled out her laptop. She spent 2 hours researching Dante Moretti and the Moretti family. The articles were carefully worded. Journalists knew how to imply without stating, but the picture was clear. A powerful family with legitimate businesses fronting for less legitimate operations, never successfully prosecuted, always just beyond the law's reach. And Dante himself? Surprisingly little that was concrete. Photographs from charity events. The Moretti Foundation donated to hospitals and schools. A few business profiles describing him as a reclusive import-export mogul. Nothing criminal, nothing proven. But in the space between the words, in the careful non-accusations, the truth was obvious. Sophia closed the laptop. She thought about her 6 years with Elite Air. Every passenger she'd served professionally. Every emergency she'd trained for. Every moment she'd stayed calm when others panicked. What was the point of that calm if she only used it in the sky? At 11 p.m., she texted the number Dante had given her. I need to know exactly what I'd be doing, and I want guarantees about my safety and my right to leave whenever I choose. The response came in 30 seconds. Tomorrow, 10 a.m. Coffee shop next to your hotel. We'll discuss everything. Sophia lay in bed staring at the ceiling, wondering if she was making the worst decision of her life or the bravest, maybe both. The coffee shop was called Mountain Brew, and Dante was already there when Sophia arrived, sitting in a corner booth with a clear view of the entrance. One of his bodyguards, the one she'd mentally labeled Victor, sat at a separate table, watching everyone who entered. Dante stood when she approached, a gesture of old-fashioned courtesy. Thank you for coming. Sophia sat. Got straight to business. I want transparency about what I'd be doing, about the risks, about everything. Fair enough. Dante ordered coffee for them both before continuing. What I need is simple in theory, complicated in practice. I have business to conduct, legitimate business. Meetings, events, travel. But right now I can't go anywhere without excessive security, which makes people nervous and draws attention. You'd travel with me, handle logistics, be a normalizing presence, a human shield. No, his voice was sharp. I would never put you directly in danger. Victor and his team handle security. You'd be visible at dinners, events, but protected. Why me? You could hire any professional assistant because you've already proven you can handle crisis without falling apart, and because Ricci already knows you were on that plane. Hiring someone new just creates another potential target. He paused. You're already in the story, Sophia. I'm just offering you a role that pays well and keeps you safer than being on your own. Sophia sipped her coffee thinking, what about Elite Air? If I take this job, it might affect my ability to return. If you want to return. But consider, after this investigation, even if they clear you, will you feel the same about that job? Will you trust them? He had a point. Elite Air had grounded her without hesitation, protecting their liability over her career. 60 days, Sophia said. I'll work for you for 60 days. In that time, I maintain my own apartment in New York. I can leave at any time with 24 hours notice, and you pay me weekly. Also, I want it clear, I won't do anything illegal. Agreed. Just like that? You're negotiating fairly. I respect that. Dante extended his hand. Do we have a deal? Sophia looked at his hand. This was the moment. Once she shook, she was committed. She was choosing to walk into the shadows with a man who lived there. But she was also choosing to pay her mother's medical bills, to keep her apartment, to survive. She shook his hand. When do I start? Tonight. We fly to Miami. Victor will collect you at 6 p.m. Pack light. We'll provide what you need once we're there. As she walked back to her hotel to pack, Sophia's phone buzzed. Text from an unknown number. Wrong choice, Puta. You should have stayed away from him. Her blood ran cold. She screenshotted the message and immediately called Dante's number. He answered on the first ring. Sophia, I just got a threatening text. Unknown number. Silence then. Forward it to me and pack now. Victor will be there in 30 minutes. Not 6 hours. We're moving you immediately. Dante, this is exactly what I warned you about. Ricci moves fast, but so do we. His voice was hard, commanding, the voice of someone used to crisis. Pack essentials only. Victor will handle the rest. You're under my protection now. The call ended. Sophia stared at her phone, heart racing. What had she just gotten herself into? But there was no time for second thoughts. She grabbed her suitcase and started throwing in clothes, her mind spinning. 28 minutes later, Victor knocked on her door. He was all business, scanning the hallway before entering. Ready? As I'll ever be. They took the back stairs, not the elevator. Outside, a black SUV with tinted windows waited. Engine running. Victor opened the back door and Sophia slid in. Dante was already there. Welcome, he said quietly, to my world. As they drove away from the Blue Ridge Inn, Sophia looked back once. The mountains were beautiful in the fading afternoon light. But beauty, she was learning, could hide a lot of darkness. She'd stayed calm at 30,000 feet when the plane was falling. Now she had to stay calm in free fall of a different kind. One where the ground was made of secrets, danger, and a man whose eyes saw too much, including perhaps straight through her. Miami hit Sophia like a wave of heat and humidity the moment she stepped off Dante's private jet. A different aircraft, a sleek Bombardier Global 7500 with security measures she didn't want to think about too carefully. November in South Florida meant temperatures in the 80s, palm trees swaying in the breeze, and a quality of light that made everything look like a postcard. The reality, Sophia was learning, was far less picturesque. 3 black SUVs waited on the tarmac of Miami Executive Airport. Victor directed her into the middle vehicle while Dante took the lead. The convoy moved through the city with practiced efficiency. No wasted movements. Every turn calculated. Sophia watched Miami scroll past her window, the Art Deco colors of South Beach giving way to the manicured wealth of Coral Gables. They turned onto a tree-lined street where every house was hidden behind walls and gates, where security cameras tracked their progress, where old money whispered rather than shouted. The Moretti estate sat at the end of a cul-de-sac, surrounded by high walls covered in flowering bougainvillea. The gates opened silently, and they drove up a circular driveway to a Mediterranean-style mansion that managed to be both beautiful and fortress-like. Home, Dante said simply, as Victor opened her door. A woman in her 50s waited at the entrance, dark hair streaked with gray, kind eyes, an air of quiet authority. She wore simple clothes but carried herself with the confidence of someone who ran this household with an iron fist in a velvet glove. Rosa, Dante said warmly, kissing her cheek. This is Sofia Rivera. She'll be staying with us. Sophia, Rosa Delgado has been with my family for 20 years. Anything you need, she'll help you. Welcome, Miss Sophia. Rosa's accent was Cuban, her smile genuine. Come, I show you to your room. The interior of the house was stunning. Marble floors, soaring ceilings, artwork that Sophia suspected was original and expensive. But Rosa led her past all the public grandeur to a wing that felt more private, more lived in. This is the guest suite, Rosa said, opening double doors to reveal a bedroom larger than Sophia's entire apartment in Queens. French doors opened onto a private balcony overlooking gardens that seemed to stretch forever. The bathroom had a soaking tub and a shower with more jets than Sophia could count. It's beautiful, Sophia said, slightly overwhelmed. Mr. Dante, he wants you comfortable. Rosa's eyes were shrewd, assessing. You are not like the others he brings here for business. You are different, yes? I'm just his assistant. Rosa's tone suggested she didn't quite believe that, but wouldn't push. Dinner is at 8. Casual. I bring you something to wear. Your luggage. It is small. After Rosa left, Sophia stood in the center of the room, processing. 48 hours ago, she'd been a flight attendant on administrative leave. Now she was living in a mansion in Miami, working for a man whose last name appeared in FBI files. Her phone buzzed. Her mother. Mija, you made it to Miami safely? Yes, Mama. The job is good. The people are treating me well. This man you work for, he is respectable? Sophia thought of Dante, of the bodyguards, of the threatening text message that had sent them fleeing Virginia. He's complicated, but he's treating me with respect. You be careful, Sophia. You have good instincts. Trust them. After the call, Sophia unpacked her meager belongings, showered, and found the clothes Rosa had left. A simple but elegant dress in deep blue. It fit perfectly, which raised questions Sophia decided not to ask. At 8, she made her way downstairs, following the sound of classical music. Opera, she realized. Puccini, if she wasn't mistaken. Dante stood on the terrace, a glass of wine in hand, watching the sun set over the gardens. He'd changed into dark slacks and a white linen shirt, looking more relaxed than she'd yet seen him. Tosca, he said without turning. Do you know it? Not well. It's about love, betrayal, and impossible choices. He turned, offering her a glass of wine. Appropriate for the moment, perhaps. They ate dinner at a small table on the terrace. Rosa's cooking, which was extraordinary. For the first hour, they talked about neutral things, Sophia's family, Dante's love of opera, the differences between New York and Miami. It felt almost normal, like a regular dinner between regular people. Then Dante set down his fork and said, "We should discuss the reality of the next few weeks." Sophia straightened. "I'm listening. I have business commitments I can't cancel without showing weakness. Events, meetings, dinners with people who are watching me for any sign of vulnerability. Some of these people are legitimate business contacts. Some are less so. You'll accompany me to many of these. Your role is to be observant, professional, and calm. Qualities you've already demonstrated. What exactly am I observing? Everything. Who's comfortable? Who's nervous? Who watches me too closely? Who avoids my eyes? You spent years reading passengers on flights. This is similar. Read the room and tell me what you see. And if I see danger, then you tell Victor immediately. He's always close." Dante paused. "Sophia, I need you to understand something. The people I'm dealing with right now are not good people. Many of them are worse than me. Some would hurt you just to hurt me. That's why security is non-negotiable. How long do we keep doing this? Playing this game? Until Ricci makes his move or until I make mine?" Dante's eyes were hard. "This ends one of two ways. He dies, or I do. I'd prefer the former." Sophia's stomach tightened. "You're talking about murder. I'm talking about survival in a world that doesn't respect anything else." He softened slightly. "I know this isn't what you signed up for. If you want to leave, I'll arrange protection for you. No judgment." Sophia thought about it, really thought about it. She could leave, could take whatever money he'd give her and disappear into a new life somewhere far from this. But she also thought about the way Dante had looked at her when the plane was falling, the respect in his eyes, the recognition of something in her that even she hadn't fully known was there. "I'm staying," she said, "for now." Something flickered in Dante's expression. Relief, maybe, or something deeper. "Thank you." The first week was a crash course in Dante's world. Victor taught her basic security protocols, exit routes, code words, how to identify threats. Sophia learned to scan every room she entered, to position herself where she could see doors, to keep her phone charged and her shoes practical enough to run in. She accompanied Dante to a charity dinner at the Perez Art Museum, where Miami's elite mingled beneath contemporary art installations. Sophia wore a black dress Rosa had somehow procured, and she watched as Dante worked the room. Charming, sophisticated, showing no hint of the danger that shadowed his life. "You're good at this," she murmured as they stood together, champagne glasses in hand. "I've had practice." His hand rested lightly on her lower back. Proprietary, but respectful. "What do you see?" Sophia scanned the room with fresh eyes. "The blonde woman at 3 o'clock. Councilwoman, I think. She keeps looking at you but won't approach. Either she owes you something, or she's afraid of being seen with you. Both, actually. Well observed." Dante's voice held a note of approval. "Anyone else?" "The man in the gray suit by the sculpture. He's been watching us for 10 minutes, and his bodyguards—" "Yes. He has two, are positioned to intercept if you move in certain directions." Dante's hand tightened slightly on her back. "That's Carlo Ricci." Sophia's pulse jumped, but she kept her expression neutral. "Should we leave?" "No, that would show fear. We stay, we're pleasant, and we see what he does." What Ricci did was approach. He was 50-ish, silver-haired, with the kind of Mediterranean handsomeness that aged well. His suit was impeccable, his smile warm and completely empty of genuine feeling. "Dante," he said, as if greeting an old friend. "What a surprise to see you here." "Carlo." Dante's voice was cordial ice. "I could say the same." Ricci's eyes slid to Sophia, and she felt assessed, catalogued, dismissed. "And who is this lovely creature? You always did have excellent taste in companions." "Sofia Rivera," Dante said before she could speak. "My assistant." "Assistant?" Ricci's smile widened. "How professional. Tell me, Ms. Rivera, how are you enjoying Miami?" "It's beautiful," Sophia said, keeping her voice steady despite the instinct screaming at her that this man was dangerous. "The weather is certainly better than New York. Indeed, though Miami can be dangerous for those who don't know its currents. Easy to get swept away." His eyes moved back to Dante. "I trust you're being careful, my friend." "Always." "Good. It would be a shame if something happened to you, or to anyone close to you." The threat was velvet-wrapped, but unmistakable. They stood in tableau for a moment, two predators sizing each other up while Sophia played the role of innocent bystander. Then Ricci nodded, smiled that empty smile again, and walked away. "We're leaving," Dante said quietly. "Now." In the SUV, Sophia finally let herself shake. "He knows about me. He knows I matter to you." "Yes." Dante's jaw was tight. "I shouldn't have brought you. This was a mistake." "Stop." Sophia turned to face him. "I'm not fragile. I'm not going to break because a scary man made a veiled threat. But I need you to be honest with me. Is he going to come after me? Possibly. Then teach me to protect myself better. More training with Victor. Whatever it takes." Sophia's voice was firm. "I chose to stay. That means I accept the risks, but I'm not going to be a helpless victim." Dante studied her in the dim light of the moving vehicle. "You're extraordinary. Do you know that? I'm practical. There's a difference." But the way he looked at her suggested he thought otherwise. The next 2 weeks fell into a pattern. Days were spent in the mansion where Sophia learned the rhythms of the household. Rosa became an unexpected ally, teaching her which of Dante's business associates were relatively safe and which were vipers. Victor continued her security training until Sophia could disarm a basic threat and knew 3 different escape routes from any room. Nights, she accompanied Dante to events, some legitimate, some less so. A fundraiser for children's hospitals where politicians smiled and made promises. A private dinner at a restaurant in Little Havana where the conversation was in rapid Italian, and Sophia understood none of it, but watched everything. A gallery opening in Wynwood where art-covered walls painted with murals and money changed hands in conversations too quiet for her to hear. Through it all, Sophia watched Dante transform depending on his audience. Charming philanthropist, hard-nosed businessman, quiet threat wrapped in expensive suits. She wondered which version was real, or if they all were, but it was the private moments that undid her careful defenses. Late nights on the terrace, drinking wine and talking about everything except the danger surrounding them. Mornings when she'd find him in the library, reading Marcus Aurelius again, and he'd explain Stoic philosophy until the coffee grew cold. The afternoon his 5-year-old niece visited, and Sophia watched the fearsome Dante Moretti get destroyed at a tea party with stuffed animals. "You're not what I expected," Sophia said one evening as they walked through the gardens. "What did you expect? Someone harder, more ruthless?" Dante smiled sadly. "I can be both of those things when necessary. The world I live in requires it. But that's not all you are." "No." He stopped walking, turned to face her. "But it's enough of what I am that you should be careful, Sophia." "Careful of what?" "Of thinking I'm better than I actually am." They stood close. Too close. Sophia could smell his cologne, see the exact shade of brown in his eyes. If she leaned forward 6 inches, she could kiss him. Instead, she stepped back. "We should go in." Rosa said dinner's ready. But that night, lying in her bed, Sophia couldn't stop thinking about those 6 inches, about the heat in Dante's eyes, about the fact that somewhere in the last 2 weeks this had stopped being just a job. She was falling for him, and that was the most dangerous thing that could happen. The crisis came on a Tuesday. Sophia was in the library when Victor appeared, his face grim. "We have a problem." "What kind?" "The kind where you need to come with me right now." He led her to Dante's office, where Dante stood staring at his computer screen, his expression carved from stone. "What happened?" Sophia asked. Dante turned the screen. Security footage showed a car pulling up to the mansion's gates at 3 a.m., a man getting out, leaving something on the ground, driving away. "What is it?" Sophia's stomach sank. "A message." Dante's voice was cold fury. "A dead rat with a note. Your American pet won't save you." Sophia's blood ran cold. "He's escalating." "Yes." Dante closed the laptop. "I'm moving you to a safe house. Tonight." "No." Both men stared at her. "No." Sophia repeated. "If I disappear, Ricci wins. He knows he can manipulate you by threatening me. I won't be that weapon." "Sophia, I'm staying. But we need a plan. A real one, not just playing defense." Dante and Victor exchanged glances. Then Dante said, "There is something risky, but it could end this." "Tell me." For the next hour, they outlined a plan. Ricci was hosting a private event in Key Biscayne, a business dinner that was really a gathering of South Florida's criminal elite. Dante had been invited, a formality that was really a challenge. Show up and risk attack, or hide and look weak. "We show up," Dante said, "but we're prepared. Victor's team will be in position. We'll have people inside. And if Ricci makes his move, we'll have evidence, recordings, witnesses, enough to bring actual law enforcement into this." "You're using yourself as bait," Sophia said. "I'm using us both as bait." Dante's eyes held hers. "Which is why you don't have to do this. I can have Victor take you somewhere safe." "I'm coming." Sophia's voice was steady despite her fear. "We end this together." The night of the dinner, Sophia dressed in a deep red dress that Rosa said made her look like she belonged at Dante's side. Jewelry that was probably real diamonds, but felt like costume pieces in Sophia's inexperienced hands. Hair and makeup done by professionals who materialized and disappeared like fairy godmothers. She looked in the mirror and barely recognized herself. Dante appeared in her doorway, devastating in a black suit. "You look..." He stopped, seemed to search for words. "You look like danger wrapped in beauty." "Is that a compliment?" "It's a warning. To everyone who'll see you tonight." He crossed to her, held out a small box. "Wear this." Inside was a delicate necklace with a pendant that looked like a simple diamond. "It's beautiful. It's also a panic button. Press it twice and Victor's team will be on you in 30 seconds. The romance of the gesture died, replaced by the reality of their situation. "You think something will happen tonight." "I think Ricci is unpredictable, and I think I'm putting you in danger by bringing you, but strategically it's our best move." Sophia fastened the necklace, feeling its weight, both physical and metaphorical. "Then let's go play with fire." The drive to Key Biscayne was tense and silent. Sophia watched Miami's lights blur past, wondering if this was the last time she'd see them, wondering if she'd made the worst decision of her life. But when Dante took her hand as they approached the venue, the Rusty Pelican, Upscale restaurant with water views. She felt strangely calm. She'd stayed calm when the plane fell. She'd stay calm now, even if the storm coming was worse than anything she'd faced at 30,000 feet. The rusty Pelican sat on the edge of Biscayne Bay like a jewel box, its windows glowing against the darkening November sky. Beyond the restaurant, Miami's skyline stretched across the water, a promise of civilization that felt very far away from what Sophia suspected would happen inside. 3 valets moved to open doors as their convoy arrived. Sophia stepped out, her heels clicking on the pavement, feeling the weight of the necklace at her throat. 2 clicks, 30 seconds. She repeated it like a mantra. Dante's hand settled on her lower back, warm through the thin fabric of her dress. "Remember," he murmured, "we're just another couple at a dinner party. Smile. Observe. Stay close to Victor's sightline." The restaurant's interior was elegant. White tablecloths, crystal, the kind of understated luxury that screamed old money. But Sophia's trained eye caught the details that betrayed the evening's true nature. Too many men in suits with bulges under their jackets, exits blocked by attentive staff who were clearly security, and windows that had been subtly covered to prevent outside observation. This wasn't a dinner party. It was a summit. Carlo Ricci held court at the center table, surrounded by men whose faces Sophia recognized from Victor's security briefings. Drug traffickers, money launderers, politicians who'd sold their souls so long ago they'd forgotten they ever had them. "Dante," Ricci stood, arms spread in false welcome. "I'm so glad you could make it, and you brought the lovely Ms. Rivera. How delightful." Sophia felt every eye in the room turn to assess her. She kept her expression pleasant, her posture confident, even as her pulse hammered in her ears. "Carlo." Dante's greeting was civil but cool. "Thank you for the invitation. Please sit. Eat. We're all friends here." Ricci's smile didn't reach his eyes. They were seated at a table with a city councilman Sophia recognized from the news, and a businessman whose import-export company was legendarily a front for cocaine trafficking. Conversation flowed around them, carefully coded discussions of shipments and territory and market share. Sophia played her role. Attentive companion, occasional laugh, hand resting lightly on Dante's arm, but her mind catalogued everything. The waiter who approached their table wasn't the same one serving other guests. The man near the kitchen door whose eyes never left Dante. The way Ricci kept checking his watch. Something was coming. Dinner was served. Beautiful plates of food that Sophia couldn't taste past the anxiety coating her tongue. Dante ate mechanically, his hand occasionally finding hers under the table. A reassurance or a goodbye, she couldn't tell which. Between courses, a councilman leaned toward Dante. "I heard about your flight troubles last month. Terrible business. You must be more careful about your aircraft maintenance." The implication was clear. Everyone knew the crash had been deliberate. Everyone knew Ricci was behind it. And everyone was watching to see how Dante would respond. "Indeed," Dante said smoothly. "I've upgraded my security protocols considerably. I find I'm much harder to reach now, but not impossible." Ricci interjected from across the room. "Nothing's impossible. Some targets just require more creativity." The room went quiet. Sophia felt the moment crystallize. This was it, the challenge, the line in the sand. Dante smiled, but there was nothing friendly in it. "Creativity is one thing, Carlo. Success is another. So far you've shown the former but not the latter." Ricci's face darkened. Sophia saw his hand move, a signal to someone she couldn't see. Then the lights went out. The darkness was absolute for 3 seconds that felt like hours. Sophia heard chairs scraping, shouts of alarm, the distinctive sound of weapons being drawn. Then emergency lighting kicked in, dim, red-tinged, turning the elegant restaurant into something from a nightmare, and chaos erupted. Gunfire shattered the air. Sophia felt Dante's arm around her, pulling her down below the table line. Glass exploded as bullets punched through windows. Women screamed. Men shouted orders in 3 different languages. "Stay down," Dante commanded, his body covering hers. Through the forest of table legs and chairs, Sophia saw Victor moving toward them, gun drawn, firing at targets she couldn't see. Other men, Dante's security, materialized from positions throughout the restaurant, returning fire. This was war. A figure appeared beside their table, one of Ricci's men, weapon raised. Sophia didn't think. Her hand shot out, grabbing his ankle, yanking hard. The man stumbled, his shot going wild. Dante moved like lightning, disarming him with brutal efficiency. "Kitchen!" Victor's voice cut through the noise. "Now!" They ran in a crouch, Dante's hand iron tight around Sophia's wrist. Behind them, gunfire continued, staccato bursts that echoed off walls and water. They burst through the kitchen doors into a scene of chaos. Staff cowering behind equipment, pots and pans scattered across the floor. Victor led them to the back exit, where 2 more of Dante's men waited. "Boats ready, go." They emerged onto a dock where a cigarette boat bobbed in the water, engines already running. Dante practically threw Sophia aboard before jumping in himself. Victor followed and the boat roared to life, pulling away from the dock just as more of Ricci's men appeared, firing at their wake. Bullets sparked off the water. One pinged off the boat's metal railing inches from Sophia's head. She stayed low, pressed against the seat, feeling the boat's engine vibrate through her bones as they accelerated across the bay. Miami's lights blurred past. The boat bounced over waves with jarring force. Sophia tasted salt spray and fear and the metallic tang of adrenaline. Beside her, Dante held a weapon she hadn't known he was carrying, his eyes scanning the darkness for pursuit. "Two boats behind us!" Victor shouted over the engine roar. "Hold on!" The pilot pushed the throttle wide open. The boat nearly flew across the water, engine screaming. Sophia gripped whatever she could find, her knuckles white. Behind them, muzzle flashes lit the darkness as Ricci's men fired. Victor and another guard returned fire, their shots more controlled, more accurate. One of the pursuing boats suddenly veered off, its engine smoking, but the other kept coming. They raced across Biscayne Bay, past islands dark against darker water, past boats anchored for the evening whose occupants probably thought they were witnessing a movie shoot. If only. The marina appeared ahead, Coconut Grove, private docks where more SUVs waited. Their boat slid into a slip with expert precision. Before it had fully stopped, Victor was pulling Sophia onto the dock, Dante right behind her. They ran for the vehicles. Sophia's heels were a liability. She kicked them off, running barefoot across the dock's wooden planks. Behind them, the pursuing boat was closing in. They made it to the SUV. Doors slammed. Tires screamed, and they were moving again, racing through Coconut Grove's quiet streets like something out of an action movie. Except this was horrifyingly real. Sophia's hands shook. Her breath came in gasps. She'd been shot at multiple times. People had tried to kill her, not theoretically, not abstractly, but with actual bullets that had missed by actual inches. Dante pulled her against him, and she let herself be held, let herself shake, let the terror finally wash over her now that they were relatively safe. "You're okay," he murmured into her hair. "You're okay. I've got you." That was... Sophia couldn't finish the sentence. Couldn't find words for what that was. "I know. God, Sophia, I'm sorry. I should never have brought you." "You grabbed that guy's ankle," Victor said from the front seat, something like respect in his voice. "Quick thinking." Sophia laughed, a slightly hysterical sound. "I didn't think. I just reacted. Best way to survive." Victor said, "Thinking gets you killed." They drove to a safe house in Pinecrest, a nondescript house in a gated community, utterly unlike Dante's mansion. Basic furniture, reinforced doors, security cameras covering every angle. Inside, Sophia finally collapsed onto a couch, her red dress torn, her feet bleeding from the dock, her carefully styled hair a disaster. She looked like a survivor of something catastrophic, which, she supposed, she was. Dante knelt in front of her, first aid kit in hand. "Let me see your feet." "I'm fine, Sophia." His voice was gentle but firm. "Let me help you." She let him clean and bandage the cuts from running barefoot across the dock. His hands were surprisingly gentle for someone who'd just been in a firefight. When he finished, he sat beside her, and they stayed in silence for a long moment. "5 dead, Victor reported, phone to his ear. 3 of ours, 2 of Ricci's. Restaurant's a crime scene. Police are calling it gang violence." "Which it is," Dante said quietly, "just not the kind they think." Sophia turned to him. "This is your life. This is what you meant when you said your world was dangerous." "Yes. People died tonight, Dante. People who worked for you, people with families." "I know." His voice was heavy with grief and guilt. "Miguel has 3 kids. Antonio was getting married next month. I know exactly what tonight cost. And it's not over, is it? Ricci won't stop. No, tonight was him showing he can reach me anywhere. Next time will be worse." Dante stood, paced. "I have to end this. Permanently." Sophia's mind raced through options, through possibilities. She thought about everything she'd learned in 3 weeks in Dante's world, the delicate balance of power, the importance of reputation, the way violence begat more violence in an endless cycle. "What if you didn't?" she said quietly. Dante turned. "Didn't what?" "Didn't end it with more violence. What if you went to the FBI?" The room went silent. Victor stared at her like she'd suggested Dante sprout wings and fly, but Dante's expression was thoughtful. "Explain," he said. Sophia stood, her mind working. "Ricci attacked a restaurant full of witnesses tonight, including politicians, including people who'd rather not be connected to a shootout. The FBI could use that. Testimony, evidence. What if you gave them everything? Names, operations, evidence against Ricci in exchange for immunity. You're suggesting I become an informant." Dante's voice was flat. "I'm suggesting you survive, and maybe, just maybe, find a way out of this life. That's not how this world works, Sophia. You don't just walk away, then you die in it." Sophia met his eyes. "Is that what you want? To keep fighting until Ricci gets lucky? Until more of your men die? Until maybe I die?" That last part hit home. She saw it in the way Dante flinched. "The Moretti family doesn't cooperate with law enforcement," he said. "It's against everything my father built. Everything. Your father's dead," Sophia said bluntly, "and his world is eating you alive. You told me you've been trying to legitimize the business. This is how you do it. Burn down the parts that can't be saved and build something new from what's left." Victor cleared his throat. "Boss, I hate to say it, but she's not wrong. We're outgunned. Ricci has allies we don't. If this becomes a full war, we lose. But if we flip the board, get the feds involved." Dante turned away, staring out the window into darkness. Sophia could almost see him wrestling with it. Pride versus pragmatism, loyalty to a dead code versus survival. Finally, he spoke. I'd need guarantees, immunity for my core people, protection, and assurance that my legitimate businesses stay intact. The FBI makes deals every day, Sophia said. Especially when they can take down someone like Ricci. It would end my life as I know it. Everything I built, my reputation, but you'd be alive to rebuild. Sophia crossed to him, placed a hand on his arm, and maybe you'd be free. Dante looked down at her hand, then up at her face. You really think I deserve a chance at freedom after everything I've done? I think you deserve a chance to be more than your father's legacy, more than this endless violence. Sophia's voice softened. I think you deserve a chance at an actual life. Something shifted in Dante's expression. Walls crumbling, defenses falling. If I do this, everything changes. I'd be a target for every family I'd be betraying. Then we make sure you're protected. We? Dante's hand covered hers. Sophia, if I do this, you can't be anywhere near me. The danger would be exponential. Stop trying to protect me from my own choices. Sophia's voice was firm. I'm here. I'm staying. Unless you're telling me to leave. I should tell you to leave. I should have told you that weeks ago. But you didn't, and I'm still here. So stop arguing and let's figure out how to keep you alive. The next week was a blur of clandestine meetings, federal prosecutors who arrived in unmarked cars, asking questions for hours, recording everything, Dante giving them information he'd sworn he'd never share, names, operations, evidence that would dismantle networks built over decades. Sophia sat in on many of the meetings, watching Dante systematically destroy his own empire to save what remained of his soul. It was painful and necessary and brave in a way that had nothing to do with violence and everything to do with choosing a harder path toward redemption. The night before his testimony to the grand jury, they sat alone on the safe house's small patio, the Miami heat finally giving way to something approaching cool. Ricci will know by tomorrow, Dante said. Once I testify, there's no going back. Do you want to go back? No, but I'm afraid of what's ahead. He turned to her. Sophia, these last weeks with you, you've shown me something I didn't know existed, a different way of being, strength without violence. Courage without cruelty. You already had that in you, maybe, but you reminded me it was there. He took her hand. When this is over, if I survive it, I want to find out who I am without this life, without the family business, without the weight of my father's expectations, just me. And who do you think that person is? Dante smiled, slightly sad. I have no idea, but I'd like to find out, preferably with you. Sophia's heart stuttered. Dante, I know it's insane. I know I have no right to ask you for anything after dragging you into this nightmare, but if I'm going to rebuild my life, I want you in it, if you'll have me. Sophia thought about the man she'd met on that falling plane, calm, calculating, unreadable. She thought about the man she'd come to know, complex, wounded, trying desperately to be better than his worst impulses. She thought about herself too, the flight attendant who'd thought she knew what courage was until real danger had shown her depths she hadn't known she possessed. Ask me again, she said softly, when you're on the other side of this, when you know who you are without all of it, then I'll give you my answer. That's fair. Dante pressed a kiss to her knuckles. I can wait. I'm good at waiting for things that matter. The grand jury testimony happened in a federal building in downtown Miami, surrounded by so much security it looked like a presidential visit. Dante was inside for 6 hours while Sophia waited with Victor, pacing, drinking terrible coffee, watching news alerts on her phone. When Dante finally emerged, he looked exhausted but lighter somehow. It's done. 47 counts against Ricci and his organization. They're moving to arrest him tonight. The arrests happened swiftly. FBI SWAT teams hitting locations across Miami. Coordinated strikes that netted Ricci and 24 of his top lieutenants. By morning, it was the top story on every news channel. Major organized crime network dismantled. Dante watched the coverage with an expression Sophia couldn't read. It's over. The life I knew for 40 years. Just over. How do you feel? Terrified, relieved, free. He turned to her. The prosecutors are putting me in WITSEC. New identity, new city, new life. They're offering to include anyone I want to take with me. Sophia's heart pounded. That's a big decision. I know. That's why I'm not asking you now. But the offer stands, Sophia. If you want a new life too, with me, it's yours. 2 weeks later, after consultations with WITSEC coordinators, after tearful conversations with her mother, after long nights of soul-searching, Sophia made her choice. She called Dante's protected number. When do we leave? 6 months passed. Bend, Oregon was about as far from Miami as you could get in both geography and culture. The small city nestled in the high desert, surrounded by mountains, where the air was clean, and people smiled at strangers, and nobody knew or cared about the Moretti family of New York. David Morgan, Dante's new identity, owned a small business consulting firm. He wore khakis instead of designer suits and drove a sensible sedan instead of armored SUVs. He was learning to relax, to sleep without nightmares, to live without constantly looking over his shoulder. Sarah Collins, Sophia's new name, taught aviation safety courses online, and after months of saving and planning, had finally started flight lessons. The dream she'd set aside years ago was becoming reality. They lived in a modest house with a view of the Cascade Mountains, and it was more home than Sophia had ever known. "I got my solo license today," Sophia announced one evening, bursting through the door with barely contained excitement. David, Dante, looked up from the book he was reading, his face breaking into genuine joy. "That's incredible. We should celebrate." Rosa sent cannoli. Sophia held up a care package that had arrived with elaborate forwarding to protect their location. "She says she's proud of us. Rosa always knows what we need." They ate cannoli on the back deck, watching the sun set over the mountains, talking about flight training and business proposals, and whether they should get a dog. It was mundane. It was peaceful. It was everything neither of them had known they needed. "Do you miss it?" Sophia asked eventually. The power, the prestige, being Dante Moretti. He considered the question seriously. "Sometimes I miss the certainty, knowing my place, knowing the rules, even if they were violent rules. But then I wake up next to you and I don't have to wonder if someone's going to try to kill me that day. And I remember why I chose this. No regrets, only that I didn't do it sooner." He took her hand. "You asked me once who I'd be without all of that. I'm still figuring it out, but whoever he is, he's happier than Dante Moretti ever was." "Good." Sophia squeezed his hand. "Because Sarah Collins is pretty happy with David Morgan." "Is she?" His voice held a note of something Sophia couldn't quite identify. "Happy enough to make this permanent?" Sophia turned to find him holding a small box. Inside was a simple ring, no diamonds, no ostentation, just a band of gold that caught the sunset light. "I promised I'd ask when I knew who I was without all of it." "Dante," David said, "I'm still learning, but I know I want to learn with you. Will you marry me?" Sophia looked at the ring, at his face, at the life they'd built from the ashes of the one they'd fled. She thought about a plane falling from the sky and a man who'd seen something in her that she hadn't seen in herself. She thought about courage and choices and second chances that most people never got. "Yes," she said, and meant it with every fiber of her being. "Absolutely yes." They married 3 months later in a small ceremony at Drake Park. Maria attended via video call. WITSEC protocols prevented her from traveling, and Sophia had never seen her mother look so happy even through tears. Rosa and Victor also called in to watch, carefully routed through secure connections. The family Dante had built wasn't blood, but it was real. The ceremony was simple, the vows honest, and when David kissed his bride, Sophia felt something settle into place, a sense of rightness that had nothing to do with danger or adrenaline, and everything to do with choosing each other every day. 3 years later, Sophia stood at the controls of a Cessna 172, David in the co-pilot seat, flying over the Cascade Range on a perfect autumn morning. She'd gotten her private pilot license, then her instrument rating, and now she flew whenever she could, reclaiming the dream she'd once thought lost. "Remember when we met on a plane that was falling out of the sky?" David asked, watching her pilot with easy confidence. "Hard to forget. You told me I wasn't like the others." "I was right." He took her hand. "You were extraordinary then. You're extraordinary now." "We're extraordinary," Sophia corrected. "Look at us. We survived a plane crash, a mob war, and starting over from nothing. If that's not extraordinary, I don't know what is." Below them, Oregon stretched out in endless forests and mountains, a landscape that promised possibility. Behind them, quite literally, was the life they'd fled. Ahead was everything they were building together. Sophia adjusted their heading, feeling the aircraft respond to her touch, flying her own plane after years of serving others in theirs, building a life she'd chosen rather than inheriting one. It was better than extraordinary. It was free. As they circled back toward Bend, the late afternoon sun turning the mountains gold, David said quietly, "Thank you." "For what?" "For staying calm when the plane was falling, for staying calm when my world fell apart, for believing I could be more than what I was." He pressed a kiss to her hand, "For loving me enough to start over." "You would have done the same for me," Sophia said. In a heartbeat, they landed as the sun touched the horizon, the kind of perfect landing that made all the training worthwhile. Walking away from the aircraft, hands linked, Sophia thought about the journey that had brought them here, from a failing jet over the Appalachians to this moment of peace. She'd stayed calm when everything was falling, and in that falling, she'd found a reason to fly again, not away from danger, but toward something better, toward a life chosen, not inherited, toward love earned through fire and tested by chaos, toward a future that was theirs alone. The end was really just a beginning, and for Sophia Rivera, Sarah Collins now, that was more than enough.